goodness. So Christian. Jesus. 10 years ago, you wanted to abscond upon the greatest adventure and live poor with this woman, and now she's a spoiled cunt? In the words of Cameron, you mad, you mad. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Episode 6 of The House of the Dragon has dropped. This one's called The Princess and the Queen, and we have gotten the long-awaited 10-year jump. So all of our young actresses and actors have been aged up 10 years. Everybody else staying the same. Some are looking a little older, some aren't, but the kids have all grown up a little bit. We start off with basically learning. It's almost like this episode acts like a new pilot, like the first episode of this series, because everything's sort of different. We're getting introduced to more family members and new house lines and new bloodlines. All of our folks have gotten married off and are coupled off and have kids. Rhaenyra, we open up with Rhaenyra having her third child in Valyrian blood. Sure. Rhaenyra's having her third boy after having Jacaerys and Lessery. Alicent has 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl. Aegon, the oldest, technically in her eyes, in the eyes of her father, the heir to the throne, firstborn son of the king. Helena, her second, and it's her daughter, and then Aemond, who is her third, and sort of the runt of the litter. I guess the kid that everybody sort of picks on. And also in all of this, Daemon has gotten married to Lenore, who Rhaenyra got married to Lenore, and has the 3 kids. His sister, Lena, who in earlier episodes they tried to take that young 12-year-old girl and get her betrothed to Viserys back in the day. That's who Daemon married. And they have 2 girls, Rhaena and Baela, and there's one in the oven. Don't know the gender, but there's one in the oven. And that's how this episode ends. That sort of puts the landscape of what's happening in this episode. So we open with Rhaenyra having her third born, pushing out that kid, and immediately after the birth, Alicent wants to see the baby. She doesn't care if Rhaenyra comes with him, and Rhaenyra's like, why? But the request has been made, and Rhaenyra's like, well, crap, I gotta go with this baby, because she doesn't know what the queen's planning to do with him, or what's happening. But so she deals with the pain of just delivering, pushing out a kid out of her hoo-ha, afterbirth coming out, and she's got to make this trek all the way to go see Alicent. Halfway during that trip, Laenor comes and sees him, and it's weird, kind of weird for me anyway, that the father's not present, when all the other times that we've seen a birth, which we get a lot of birth in this series. The father's around, but he's not. He's out gallivanting, drinking, and doing all of this, guzzling drinks, or God knows what, as Rhaenyra disgustingly says to him at some point in this episode. But they make their way to Alicent, and basically Alicent is just doing one thing. She knows who the father of this kid is, and she knows that it's not Lenore. Like, it ain't that kid. But she wants to see her firsthand, face to face. Let me look at this kid. Now, it's interesting. I don't know about in the books, but I don't think that the Valyrians were of African descent in the books. But they are in the show. And so there are clear markers that would happen if Rhaenyra was to have a kid with Lenore. They should come out looking some type of way. Daemon's kids do, but these don't. And so Alicent is well aware that they don't. And she makes a point to sort of pull Lenore to the side. It's like, well, keep trying. Maybe one of these kids will look like you. Kind of just putting the seed in the head, like, I know that you're not the father of these kids. I'm well aware of that. And I'm on to you. This clown here, my husband, her dad, he's got a thin veil. He's blindly seeing his kid, the goodness and all his kid, but I know what the hell's going on. So that was literally just a measuring stick to say, hey, let me see your kid. Cool, another one that's not yours. You keep pissing on this throne, and you keep making a mockery of what we're doing here. And then they leave, and she sort of has a one-on-one with Viserys, like, hey, why do we keep doing this? How long are we going to let this happen? That she's allowed to just do whatever the hell she wants to with the court. She's having kids that we know these aren't um, hers. I mean, we know these aren't Valerian. So what are we doing? Like this, we're ruining the bloodline. And he's just like, those are all rumors. Like you don't know what you're talking about. And he knows. He honestly knows what's going on. But that's his daughter. And she is still the next in line. Viserys continues to look like the man who just like, I didn't want this damn job. And now, as much as he looked like he was about to die at the end of the last episode, he looks like death walking now. He's lost his arm, the arm that got cut on the throne, he's lost it. That arm's gone. He's now looking closer and closer to Gollum from Lord of the Rings than we've ever thought possible. So right now, while he is still the king in title, Alicent is seeming to be running a great deal of this, but she knows that is not long for this world. We sort of start seeing the parents with each of their kids and kind of having moments with their kids. We see that Aegon is a brat. If you wanted to see what Joffrey in Game of Thrones sort of looked like as a kid, the brat, that's what Aegon is. Aegon's very much that petulant kid. He's jerking off at the window. He just doesn't care. He's the oldest kid who knows that if something happens to my aunt, I'm the king. I run this, and that's kind of how he's operating. And he teases his younger brother, who's sort of the runt and doesn't have a dragon of his own. They all make fun of him, and that's sort of the sibling, the dichotomy there. And he's also not too fond or shows much love to his cousins, who are Rhaenyra's kids. He has a sister. Helena seems to be more into bugs and favors her aunt very much. But those are sort of all the sort of makings of the family. Rhaenyra has to have a convo with Lenora to say, hey, I need you around more. People are Alicent's starting to question things. And we need to tighten up ship. We need to start having you around more. And he's like, I want to go off to war. Everybody in this show, in this episode, the biggest thing about this episode is everybody's pretending or hiding in the veil of something that they're not. They want to do something else. They want to be something else. They want to do something else, but they're all hiding who they truly are. We'll get into that with Daemon and Rhaenyra in a second. Harwin Strong is hiding who he truly is, and Christian, even though he is spouting evil nothings about Miss Rhaenyra, he is hiding what he truly feels and how he truly is. So Rhaenyra just tells him like, "Hey, look, I need you to be in." He's like, "No, I gotta go to war. Like, I'm a fighter. I've given you all the time you need. I've been here to act. I've been here as his parents. I've been doing my thing." And she's like, "Look, our agreement is still standing. You've been out guzzling and doing all your drinking and being with whomever you want. It's perfectly fine. But right now, I need you to be here. Stepstones are in trouble. I need you so that we can pretend to be, at the very least, on the facade, husband and wife, and that these are your kids because people are starting to speak, and I need this to stop immediately." And he's like, "Nah." She's like, cool. I pull rank, and I am the queen, and I'm the princess, and I order you to stay here. And he kind of just like, oh, well, crap. Well, that is what that is. The big impetus of this episode is that Sir Christian is sort of showing the kids how to fight or going through battle stuff. So Sir Christian is trying to set up things, and this is sort of him being bitter too, because he knows whose kid that is, and he knows it's not my kid. He's feeling a type of way, and he's showing it here, and he's being kind of a dick. But he has Aegon spar against Jakari, and Jakari is younger and smaller than Aegon. Like Aegon is supposed to win this all the time. And they get into it, and Harwin Strong is there, and Harwin is the actual father to Rhaenyra's kids. Alicent knows this. And there are whispers everybody else, but no one is actually coming out to say it because she is still the next in line and there's still a respect level. As long as that king is alive, no one's going to be throwing darts at her. So, but the whispers are there. And he feels a type of way about like this guy being the person that slept with the woman that he wanted to run off and abscond about the spoil cunt that he wanted to run off with. And so he picks a fight, and he starts whispering, kind of getting under the skin of Harwin. And in this, Harwin breaks up the fight between Aegon and Jakari. Mind you, Grandpa is sitting up in the top saying, "Hey, my family's getting along. This is pretty good." And his hand, who is Harwin's dad, knows what's really happening. Like he knows those are his actual grandkids. Like that's both of their kids down there. But he's kind of like, "Yeah, I don't know if that's working." he gets under the skin of Harwin, and Harwin decks him and just starts beating the pummeling the crap out of him. Because basically he says, "Hey, the only person that would show as much attention to these boys as if there's like a brother or something, or like if these were his sons," and that's when he loses it. Which unfortunately, in this, it is getting under the skin and allowing sort of the veil to fall a little bit. And if you're getting that angry about that situation, then perhaps they are correct. And he proves that in front of the court, where some people start seeing it. Then it starts spreading more and more, and those rumors start getting further and further out there. Damon is out here with two girls, two very much Valyrian looking girls. And they have one on the way. But he is willing to just kind of like go with the numbers. Like, look, I'm willing to sacrifice this stuff. I'm willing to kind of be these people at the need to these people. Just if it gives us freedom, if I don't have to fight anymore, if I don't have to do all this stuff, this works for me. I'm content being this. Whereas Lenora is kind of like, hey, let's go back out. Like, I want to get back out there. I want to fight. Like, let's go claim. We're Valyrians. We're Targaryens. We need to go back to our thrones and our fight and get back out there. And Damon's like, I'm good. At the table, or the round table, if you will, where Viserys sort of holds court and just talks about things, those damn stepstones come back into play. And since the battle where Daemon crowned himself the king and won the stepstones, no one has protected the stepstones, and they've sort of just been left out there in the open. And now now the sort of head is coming back out, and they're starting to be a bit more worried that there's a groundswell of someone taking over the stepstones again. So in this council, now Rhaenyra and Alicent are both present there. The princess and the queen are both present. And they keep saying things and throwing daggers back and forth at each other that it is getting grimy. But the biggest thing that comes out of this is that Rhaenyra feeling sort of trapped and like her back's against the corner because she knows whatever's happening, people are whispering, he's not made this any easier. Because she overhears Harwin and his dad having a convo, and Harwin's dad knows, and it's kind of like, "What are you doing? Now you're making it blatantly obvious that you're these kids, these fathers, and that's things that can be killed for both of you guys. But for you, it's worse because at least she still has the king to kind of like protect her. I can't do anything for you." And so she offers this thing up to Alicent to say, "Hey, you have a daughter, and you want to be the king and whatnot. So when I pass, how about I give you the hand of my firstborn son to be king and queen," which is so incestuous. But we can keep the powers together. They can roll king and queen together. Also, your little one, Edmund, does not have an egg. So the next time that a batch of eggs come in, we'll give him one. And Viserys is like, "That sounds like a great idea." Now it's like, I'm not a dumbass. Like I know what you're doing. You're trying to placate me, because you feel trapped and cornered and know that the veil is coming down on what it is you think you have with those boys. And she starts feeling kind of like, is she mad? Like, is she the only person in this whole freaking kingdom who can see what Rhaenyra is doing and the mockery and the shame that she's sort of bringing in on this? She asks it to Christian. She asks this to Harwin's brother, Larys Strong, which is the wrong person to ask. Larys is very much like the Littlefinger of this series. He's always planning and scheming. And she doesn't ask for his help, but she kind of just like, is no one in this entire kingdom willing to be on my side? They're all backing her. No one's backing me. And he's like, okay. He doesn't say anything to her, but he takes matters into his own hands. And he finds two people that are basically, they're going to be killed anyway. They're criminals. They're going to be killed anyway. He removes their tongue and makes them sort of his hand, his doers of pain and villainy. So before he gets that note of what Alicent saying, hey, well, I wish somebody was on my side, Harwin's dad goes to the king with Alicent present and kind of just like, hey, look, I'm resigning. There's just too much going on, and I don't feel like I can fairly do my job and handle what it is that I need to handle as your hand. Viserys is like, I don't accept. Like, you got to give me a reason why. And Alicent's like, yeah, give him a reason why, because she knows why. She knows he's the actual grandfather of these kids, and she knows that Harwin has fathered them. Like, she's like, yeah, go ahead and tell me. And he's like, nah, I can't do that. He's like, cool. Since you can't tell me what's going on, or like that that's the case, I'm gonna keep you on. And then he's like, well, then at the very least, you need to send Harwin away. Have him go do something else somewhere, some else, but he can't be here. The king is not dumb. The king now he understands what all of this means, and he knows that I do have to send Harwin away. So he does. He agrees to do so. And Allison's like, what the hell? So that's what the impetus is when she's like, well, why is everybody nuts and doing these things to placate this girl? And I'm just trying to do what's best for my son and what's best for the kingdom as a whole. And I feel like this entire show shows you, and this entire family shows you how much they don't do what's best for the kingdom, even though it's the easy thing to do. Viserys just chooses to make everything as difficult as he possibly can. So Harwin and his dad go off to this castle and get set up. And that night, Larys's boys, the people that he has maimed and harmed, so they can't speak a word of what actually they've done. They set it so that Larys is set on fire and burned in the castle. Daemon unfortunately loses his young wife, as she has a baby that is stillborn, and that baby is stuck. It can't come out, and they take it out. It's going to kill the wife, and otherwise, it's kind of like the situation that Viserys had with his wife earlier, except for she takes matters into her own hands, and she's a dragon rider at this point. And she goes into her dragon and commits suicide by dragon. She calls her Jacaerys to her dragon. The dragon has a connection to her. Like when you have a connection like that, and he knows what that is doing. He refuses to do it for a while. Then at the very end, he kind of is like, all right, I'll do this because you're asking me, because I do follow you. And Daemon sees her doing it, which is going to probably set him on to kind of go back. It's like, hey, maybe it is best that I don't live this lie, and I can go back to the woman. Maybe try to get back to the woman that I love, because I'm single. Rhaenyra isn't. In a good faith gesture, Rhaenyra has seen that with Harwin having to leave, because she did this whole goodbye with her kids to Harwin, and before he got burned up, she's not in this episode. She's not made aware that he's gone yet, but she sees Harwin off, and when she does that, her oldest asks, "Is he my actual father?" And she's like, that doesn't matter. Like, she sort of non-answers him, but she's like, yeah, you're a Targaryen, which, like I said, does not answer the question. She's not wrong. Like, at the end of the day, doesn't truthfully matter who fathered the kids. There is Targaryen blood in there. So many times on the other side, if it was a guy, it would be irrelevant who the mom is. Now, sometimes they'll be called a bastard like Jon Snow and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, they are still the bloodline. But it's a little weirder, or a little bit more frowned upon if the mom is the one who is having kids with other people. But with seeing that with her son and the whispers she's getting in the hall, she goes up to Lenore and is like, we gotta leave. We need to go back to Dragonstone. Like we should have been there a long time ago. And he's like, well, you're letting her win. He's like, no, I'm not. But I think we just need to get away. I need to protect my boys. And we need to go to a place where we can rule and be the best versions of ourselves without having to have everybody sort of point fingers. Once these kids become big enough and the throne is ours, we'll come back and claim our throne. But for now, let's get out of here. And she then says, hey, by the way, because she knows, like, he's like, I don't want to leave my boy, because he's jousting with what is his boy toy as well. She's like, well, we'll need more, as many hands as we can get, bring him to. Because she knows, like, hey, I need to appease you. I know I'm not what's going to be good for you, so you come with me, and we'll get the job done. So the episode ends with, obviously, we've lost two people on this one. And that's, I think, a part of me, what bothers me a bit about this episode is that we lose. Harwin's death feels truthful because we spend a great deal of time with him in this episode and seeing he's a good man. He's a handsome man. He's a good man. He's way more of a man than Christian ever would have been. So it was sad to see him go. Like, that was disappointing. Rhaenyra, unfortunately, I don't spend enough time with her in this series. Like she's the 12-year-old's like, I'll do anything for you. I'll have to out when I'm 15. I'll be able to pop out kids. But I don't have enough of attachment to her to feel that her death by suicide by dragon felt earned. I think maybe if I read the books or spent a little bit more time with her, I may have cared more about that. But I was like, that's sad, and then that's it. The final piece of this episode, though, is with Allison and Loras coming back together after Loras has put into motion killing his brother. And he, in a roundabout way, tells him what was done. He's like, "Hey, my brother's blood is now mixed with the mortar." He makes it so eloquent and fancifies it up so much that she's like, but she knows what he's talking about, and she looks disturbed. She's like, "I didn't ask you to do that." He's like, "No, you kind of did. You kind of did." But when you capitalize on this, or when this works in your favor, I want you to just remember me, and I'm here for you. I am now that person that is here on your side. And while it's fun, I haven't read the book, so I'm going into these Game of Thrones episodes or these House of Dragon episodes, not knowing what's to come. But I do know that Allison has sort of been set up as the major villain of all of this. But I think what's good is that Olivia Cook's playing this in a way that is very human and very real. And so she did not want that to occur in that way. She did not want him to go take out his brother. She just wants someone to listen to her and stop taking everything that Rhaenyra says at face value. And so seeing and having Loras do this now, that may just take her further down that, because now she who is doing some things that are shady, whereas Rhaenyra was the only one who was, in her eyes, was the only one who was doing things that were shady. And now some of the muck and blood is on her hands, and she's well aware of it. And now it's going to be a matter of who does the dirtiest stuff first to each other. I think a key piece that I didn't mention here was a sequence in here where Allison speaks to Aegon. As he's jerking off in the window, she comes home. She's like, "I don't care about you beating off, whatever, do your thing. But I need you to start manning the hell up. Like, you need to get your stuff together, because you are the actual heir. And when King Viserys dies, everyone in this kingdom is going to think that you are the king. They're gonna ignore her. Like, the veil of whatever's happening in this kingdom will be gone, and then they will think, and you need to be ready to take that throne." And so I think I hope we don't age up too much. I know we're going to have to, just to kind of keep things going, but because we're eventually getting to the big battle with dragons. But I think it is important to kind of spend some time to see that young brat turn into the crazed king that I believe Aegon is going to end up being. A pretty solid episode. Look, this series, House of Dragons, is a lot more dialogue and a lot more character driven than I think the majority of the ending seasons of Game of Thrones are. And it's a lot of what Game of Thrones in those first 2 or 3 seasons were. And I appreciate that. There's a lot of setting up, but some of it does feel a little bit fast. So it's like we're moving at a pretty quick pace. Olivia Cook I can watch do all day. And I love the age up for both the actresses. So this is another solid episode for me. And getting to see the annoyance, the olive branches, and then what is going to be the definite, like, once King Viserys dies, all bets are going to be off. Like, this is going to get uglier than it already is. Alicent's using her power sparingly where she can as queen to kind of keep Rhaenyra off her guard. But once the king is gone and she is the queen, and then the queen flips, the power struggle flips the other way, where she is now the queen and she is the widow to a king. Let's see how much mercy and good faith Rhaenyra has towards Alicent. But those are my thoughts. What did you guys think about this latest episode called The Princess and the Queen? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.